Hello, everyone, and welcome to my weekly Wednesday live broadcast. I'm super excited for you to be here today, and we are going to jump right in. I have a question for you. When you decided to pursue a creative dream, what was it that you were really chasing? Let me ask that question again. When you decided to pursue a creative pursuit or a creative dream, what were you really chasing? For many of us, it's about getting really good at a creative practice, and that creative practice might be surface pattern design. That's my creative practice. It could be watercolor work. It could be crafting. It could be a variety of different things. You might love to knit or to do other crafts. And it's really about pursuing that practice because it brings us a lot of joy, a lot of fulfillment, because we're pursuing excellence. We're trying to get better at it over time, right? By really applying ourselves. And listen, it can be hard to prioritize your creative practice because you have so many other things pulling at your time and your attention and your energy. So we are approaching the 4th of July, and I want to celebrate what pursuing your dreams means and how doing the hard work step by step can give you freedom to set your own schedule, freedom to build something meaningful on your own terms, and also freedom to create beautiful work that reflects your values. And I invite you to pause and reflect on how you can lean into this even more deeply for the balance of 2025. We are just beginning the month of July, so we're entering the back half of the year. And it's so important to kind of regroup and decide to reignite the things you thought you wanted to do back in January, but maybe you didn't get to them. Now's a perfect time to kind of reset. And for example, what does independence look like in your business? If you're anything like me, your creative business journey began with a very powerful desire. You had a very specific reason why you were going down this path. Now, I wanted to create something of my own and something that no one could take away from me. That was my main motivation. And I felt that very deeply after I got laid off from my corporate job in my late 50s, right? For years, many of us build our entire identity around the corporate job that we have. And when we get laid off, in a single moment, that identity is gone. So starting my creative business wasn't just about making an income, although that was extremely important, but it was also about building a life where I could choose how I spend my time, who I serve, who's in my creative community, who I can teach new skills to, and also what kind of a business do I want to create. Being your own boss is the most amazing thing because you get to make all of these decisions based on what's right for you. And as I've built my own business, I've realized that freedom doesn't happen by accident. Freedom is a series of choices, and we don't always feel free in our businesses, even though that was why we started them to begin with. And so why is that? It's because we can fall into habits that make us feel boxed in. We might take on projects that don't light us up anymore. We might say yes to things that we really should be saying no to because they're going to be a distraction or a shiny object that takes us off of our path. And we might also fill our schedules with busy work instead of focusing on work that's going to move us forward. I know for me, one of the things I have a tendency to do is I might do a little bit of procrastination before I start to jump into something I really should be working on. And this shows up for me in the most silly way, but frequently I have to clean off my desktop. I'm going to sit down at the computer and I have to make sure that the top of the desk is beautiful and clean and that there's nothing on it. And really that is a form of procrastination, but luckily I don't have a lot to clean off, so it doesn't take that long. But I'm curious, do you have a particular thing that you will find yourself doing before you do the thing you really should be doing? Maybe that is, I'll just do the laundry and then I'll get to my project after I finish the laundry. Or I better run the dishwasher, or I better empty the dishwasher, right? All of these things, especially since we spend so much time in our homes, can be a real distraction and also a way for us to procrastinate, starting to move forward on the work we have to do. And then comparing ourselves to others is also a terrible rabbit hole to go down, because we lose path of our own unique path. And real creative freedom comes when we intentionally design our business. And it doesn't have to be a full-time business. It can be a side business, a side hustle, something that you're doing part-time, because it's very important that it serves the life that you want, not the other way around. You still want to have time for your friends, for your family, for your other passions. So I have 3 reflection questions for you about creative independence. And since we are going into the 4th of July weekend, I thought that I could offer you these 3 simple but powerful questions. So I want you to just take 10 minutes, grab your journal, and explore how you would answer these questions. And you can find them on my blog. You can go to AnneLafolletArt.com/blog, and you'll see this blog called Independence and Creativity, and the prompts are in there. But here's question number 1. Where do you feel most free in your creative practice right now? Could be in your business, your creative business, or it could be in your creative practice right now. Where do you feel most free? Maybe it's in the art making itself. Maybe it's in when you think about your schedule for the week, you know that you have built in time to do your creative practice. Maybe it's actually when you're connecting with customers. But what feels light, joyful, and easy? Question number 2 is, where do you feel constrained? And what small shift could you make to change that? Maybe it's a product that you don't love making anymore. Maybe you've been making things by hand and you realize that you can only make so many of them, and that it puts a little bit of a cap or a limit on how much income you can make. So maybe it's a product that you don't love making anymore. Maybe it's a deadline that feels too tight and you need to give yourself some grace and give yourself more time to complete it, but set a new deadline so it doesn't go on forever. And this might very much apply to something that you had put on your goals in January, and you need to kind of reapply and rethink that particular priority now that we're entering the back half of the year, because there's plenty of time to still get it done. So maybe it's a tech tool that's driving you crazy and you need to do more Googling, or you need to go on ChatGPT to help you figure out how to use it. 2 great resources. Now, what's one tiny change that could create more breathing room for you? That's really, really an important part of that question. And then the 3rd question is, what's one decision that you can make this week that aligns with the creative practice that you want? Right? Question number 3 again is, what's one decision that you can make this week that aligns with the creative life that you want? And it could be as small as blocking off an afternoon for sketching, or it could be as big as finally saying no to a project that doesn't fit with your priorities anymore. The key is to decide and realize that you get to choose, right? I have some additional practical ways to lean into your creative freedom this month, and I wanted to share them with you. So here's the first one. Revise your schedule. Are you actually designing your days or reacting to everyone else's needs? I think we can get pulled in all kinds of different directions. And so I use Michael Hyatt's Full Focus Planner to plan out my week. And he has this whole methodology called the ideal week. But revisit your schedule and make sure that you're actually being very intentional about how you're designing your schedule and your days so that you're giving yourself space for yourself. And look for one spot to reclaim it. Or maybe it's each morning that is your creative time. And you're setting that time aside and letting everyone know that it's a priority for you and that you will take care of everything else afterwards. So you're never letting anyone down. You're just prioritizing some time each morning, and then you'll get to all of the rest of the things that you need to do for everyone else afterwards. The next thing is, do you have a variety of offers already that you want to reevaluate? Maybe everything that you teach doesn't feel really aligned anymore with what you want to be doing, or maybe you want to reevaluate other products that you've been offering because you want to update them, or maybe you've discovered which ones sell the best, and so those are the ones you want to lean into the most. Start making notes about what could potentially shift. This is the perfect time to reevaluate what you offer, whether it's physical products, digital teaching, right? Online courses or a membership, because we're entering the back half of the year and a lot of very, very important sales activities take place in the back half of the year. So you want to be ready with the offers that you're most excited about, so that you can sell them in October, November, and December when most sales happen. So this is the perfect time. Summer is the perfect time to reevaluate. And then I also really like to reconnect with your why. Remember why you started. Not any type of polished mission statement, if you have one, but really the deeper truth. What was it about spending more time in your creative practice that really lights you up, right? How does it allow you to express yourself? And maybe that is also showing up in a way that you still have discovered you have plenty of time for your friends and your family and other priorities, but you actually are absolutely focused on the type of creativity you want to get out into the world. And then finally, I think it's super important to simplify where you can. I'm a big believer in keep it simple. You can always get fancy later, and you might not actually need to get fancy. Freedom often comes from simplifying. So is there a tool or a platform or a process that's become overcomplicated? You've added like too many bells and whistles to it. So take one small step towards simplifying it. So here's how I protect my own creative freedom. Over the years, I've found that creative freedom doesn't just come from starting a business. It comes from protecting my time, energy, and focus as I grow and evolve the business. And so here's what it looks like for me. I use very simple tools that I trust in my business. I use Squarespace for my website, Kajabi for pretty much everything else, because Kajabi is my email service provider. It is where I do the opt-in pages for my free and paid offers. It's also where I email you my newsletter on Tuesday mornings. And then I'm using Ecamm Live right now to broadcast both to Facebook and to YouTube simultaneously. So those three tools, Squarespace, Kajabi, and Ecamm, are all I need. And so I don't have to get tangled up in a billion other side tools or tech headaches, because my motto is keep it simple. You can always get fancy later. The other thing that I'm still working on, but has helped me a lot because I'm starting to get a little bit better at it, is batching content. So this is important because if I can batch, for example, a month of blog posts at a time, or a month of my podcasts at a time, even my Doodles Digest newsletter, if I can batch like 4 at a time, it means that I'm not every single week needing to come up with that content idea and then producing it. And so it gives me more time for spontaneous inspiration. I also say no, kindly but firmly, to projects that don't align with my goals, right? So I get asked a lot to do other things, and I always have to just reflect for a minute before I love to say yes, but I also need to make sure that I go back to my priorities and to the roadmap that I have for my business so that I can say no when it's actually not aligned with what's on my roadmap. And this is super important to me. I build community around my programs because I know that we achieve more when we're doing it together, right? It can be very lonely as a creative entrepreneur. And so doing it in community with others and supporting each other and building each other up is definitely the way to go. It gives us the accountability and also just the community and the connection that we all really crave. So, a couple final thoughts for you this week, because we're going to watch tons of beautiful fireworks, and I hope you'll have an opportunity to take a moment to celebrate the freedoms that we cherish as Americans. We are so blessed to live in this country and to have all of the freedoms that we have here. And you can change your circumstances with hard work. You can find support in creative communities where everyone cheers each other on. And these communities are so important because we don't want, it's a place to avoid the noise, right? It's a place to come and be together and to be doing something joyful and to support each other and to basically be able to be in a bubble away from all of the craziness and the noise that surrounds us on the outside. And you just need to start making small choices that honor your values and the life that you want to live. And I always like to close by saying, remember, it's never too late to create. And I'm here to support you to build your dream your way. So I hope that you have enjoyed today's broadcast. I will let you go. I'll be back next Wednesday. And if you have any questions at all, pop them in the comments. I'll come back later to watch the replay myself and also to see if there are any questions that you popped in there that I can answer for you. All right. I always like to close by saying that I am Anne LaFollette, and it's never too late to create. Bye for now. And I'll see you next week.